Pokemon Mystery Dungeon is arguably the most beloved spin-off series in the Pokemon franchise, made by Spike Soft instead of the traditional Game Freak. With 5 entries, a WiiWare Japan exclusive game, and a remake, it's clear to see just how much this series is loved by not just the fans, but Pokemon themselves. These games try to sort of mix roguelike and dungeon crawler into one game alongside a lot of storytelling. It's well known that the Mystery Dungeon series does have some of the best storytelling in Pokemon, and it's not hard to see how. But today, I come to ask one thing. Can you beat Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Blue Rescue Team with Nuzlocke rules? Now, I thought about a hardcore Nuzlocke of this game banning items completely, but rather than outright banning all items, I simply did 2 things. No Reviver Seeds are allowed to be used at any given time, and no Kecleon Marts are allowed to be used for anything apart from TMs, apples, and throwing items. Now, obviously, the other rules would still apply, like that I can only get 1 Pokemon per area. But, especially at lower levels, it's pretty hard to get a lot of Pokemon in the first place. And there's not really any way to level cap yourself in this game, and stat distributions are pretty odd. You'll go from doing 10 or 11 damage to a Pokemon to all of a sudden being just 3 levels higher and doing 50 more damage. Either way though, let's get into this, but first, you should subscribe. There's been heaps of new viewers on the channel recently, and it would mean the world if even just 10% of you subscribe to see future videos. The start of this game is very cool. You basically get given a questionnaire, and whatever kind of person you are is determined by your answers. The kind of person you are matches up with a nature from the main games. I wanted to be a skitty for this run as I get access to moves like Sing, Attract, and Double Slap, as well as awesome coverage like Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. And I choose to partner up with Pikachu, being sorta like a Tom and Jerry duo with the cat and mouse. I admit though, I had to scum these questions a little bit, and it took me like half an hour, but hey, we're having fun here. We wake up in a field and our partner is with us, asking us some questions as to who we are and how we got here, and we also tell him that we are human, not a Pokemon. We tell him our name, and we hear a scream for help coming from the woods, as a Butterfree comes out telling us that she has lost her child somewhere. When we enter the dungeon for the first time, I make sure that I turn on exclusive move user on my partner, because in this game your partner acts of its own accord, rather than you being able to control it fully. We steamroll through the bugs to the 4th floor where we find little Caterpie and get him out of there to save the day. She gives us her thanks and a few berries as to thank us, as Pikachu lets us know he has a place for us to stay if we don't have anywhere to go. He then proceeds to bring us to our new place, which is a nice little home that looks pretty cozy if I say so myself. But like, I don't get why he doesn't live here with us, because for some reason he just goes out and lives in the forest and doesn't even have his own place. Like, dude just sleeps on the grass, instead of, in a sheltered house. Why do we have a house? We now start our own rescue team, and I have to name it the amazing Poop. The next morning, we get some mail from Pelipper inducting us as an official rescue team, and a letter from some Magnemite asking for our help to save their friends who were stuck together in the Thunderwave Cave. So that's where we're off to now. This place is festering with electric types, Shock, as well as Rattatas and Nidorans. But apart from a close call against an Elekid, we get through unscathed and rescue the Magnemites and get out of there. The next day, we get introduced to the Pokemon Square, which is our main hub of shopping for this game, with the storage, bank, move linker, the Kecleon shop that we have limited access to, and a shop that we'll get to in just a minute. We go to the other side of town though, where we find the Pelipper post office, where estranged Pokemon post job offerings for us to rescue them out of trouble in dungeons. This is our main source of actual items in any other run, but because we don't have that many uses for money and Reviver Seeds are banned, we pick up some quick jobs to get ourselves some rescue points and story progression. The next morning, we get awoken by a Dugtrio committing a felony by breaking and entering our house without permission. How dare he put a hole in my floor? He wants us to climb up Mount Steel to save his son Diglett that was abducted by a Skarmory. Mount Steel should be full of Steel-type Pokemon then, right? Well, not really. The only Steel ones here are Aron and Beldum, and there's actually as many ground rock fighting and normal types in here as Steel types. Either way though, we climb through the 9 floors of this place, getting to the peak where Diglett awaits us. And this is our first boss fight of the run, as Skarmory's reason for abducting little Diglett here is, he can't sleep. Because clearly one little Diglett and Dugtrio caused magnitudes across the entire planet. After the fight with Skarmory though, we rescue Diglett, but it turns out that there is a massive chasm between us and him. Luckily for us though, the Magnemites from before come to help us and pull him out of the ground somehow. Where are they? Where are his feet? What is this? After this, we ask the 2 Magnemite to join our team, but because we don't have anywhere for them to stay, they have no choice but to decline our request. The next day, however, Pikachu takes us over to Wigglytuff's shop, where we get access to our first friend areas, as well as the power plant, thanks to Magnemite from yesterday asking Wigglytuff to let us get that area as well. On our way back though, a commotion is happening in the square, where a Jumpluff is begging Shiftry to help save his friend, who is trapped in the silent chasm. but Shiftry is greedy and wants a lot of money for such a mission. Luckily though, Team ACT, the best rescue team in the area, comes to save the day, being good upstanding citizens and forcing Shiftry to do it out of goodwill instead of lining his pockets. He then runs off in a huff to go for it as Alakazam notices something is up with our presence, but thinks nothing of it for now. The next day, however, some guys called themselves Team Meanies decide to show up at our door and burgle our mailbox of all of our requests. What a way to really show you're powerful, huh? Either way though, Pelipper comes through and delivers us a couple of jobs so soon after. So it's not all doom and gloom, and we complete them as well, getting ourselves some more good items and rescue points before the next day. Caterpie, the Butterfree's son from earlier, comes to ask us for help, as his friend Metapod has gotten lost in the sinister woods. Unfortunately for us though, Team Meanies also come to try and get involved and challenge us to a race to save Metapod. Whoever gets to him first gets the reward. Obviously we just want to help our guy Caterpie out, but Gengar and his goons want to extort poor Caterpie, so we go to save him. Also, can we just appreciate how adorable this little guy is? Like, come on! I could give him so many head scratches! We slap everyone in our way though as we get to the 13th floor of the Sinister Woods to come face to face with Team Meanies. Luckily for me though, I decided to level up Magnemite a little bit beforehand, making this a 3-on-3 battle. And Magnemite is probably one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game for a couple of reasons that you'll see soon enough. We do big damage to Gengar by eating a Blast Seed and hitting Medicham with a Thunder Shock and Blast Seed, leaving him at about 20 HP as the others all get in a position. We then chip away at Gengar before taking him out, and Ekans follows suit quickly, winning us the fight. We can then save Metapod and get him home with Caterpie, but the next morning Jumpluff comes with some scary news regarding Shiftry and how he's not yet come back from the mission in the Silent Chasm. We agree to go after him and see what's going on, and the Silent Chasm is a pretty chill dungeon by our standards at this point, but we get to see the greatest cameo of any Pokemon in my Nuzlocke. Weedle. This man's got recruited on the 4th floor of the dungeon, missed a string shot in his first fight on the 4th floor of the dungeon, and died. 07 Weedle, you were truly the greatest warrior. Your battle prowess will be forgotten. On the 11th floor though, we find Jumpluff, but also Shiftry, who is unconscious. He also tells us to get away as quickly as we can, but Zapdos comes along and kidnaps him off to Mount Thunder, where he resides. With some persuasion towards Alakazam's team, we are allowed to go to Mount Thunder to try and rescue him ourselves, and obviously this place is teeming with electric types and the like. This is also the first tough boss fight of the game, with Thundershock and Peck on Zapdos being able to do massive damage. So for one of 2 times in the run, I grind my level up a little bit because at 15, we get access to one of the most broken moves in Mystery Dungeon. Double Slap. I know it sounds crazy, but even I don't know how to explain it. It just does ridiculous amounts of damage, even with a little bit of lower accuracy. Along with the linking Tail Whip and status moves like Sing and Attract and Pikachu's Thunder Wave, Zapdos should stand no chance. We storm up the first 10 floors of the dungeon with our triad of living team members, 07 Weedle. On the 13th floor, we reach Mount Thunder's peak, where Zapdos awaits us. Pikachu, being a fool, storms him after being angry about Shiftry, so I command him to stand back from Zapdos so all 3 of our team can line up and hit him at once. Thanks to Sing and Thunder Wave, we can do 50 odd damage on the first turn, and on the second turn I go for Attract to incapacitate it further. On the next turn, my Double Slap does over 80 damage, which is insane! And after a couple more double slaps, Zapdos is knocked out of commission and we get to save Shiftry as Charizard scares Zapdos away. It's at this point where Alakazam steps in and asks us outright whether we are really a Pokemon, so we tell him our story and how we got here. He has some suspicions about it for now, but holds his cards close to his chest, recommending us to go to the Great Canyon. The Pokemon in here aren't bad to deal with. Murkrows can be annoying with Pursuit, which is basically counter in this game, and Cacturne with Leech Seeds, but otherwise we pick up a Doduo and get through easily. At the top of the canyon, we see Xatu, who is staring off blankly into space, and we give him a good old-fashioned tickle, because that's definitely what you do if someone doesn't instantly respond. Xatu then calmly says that we are indefinitely linked to the cause of the disasters that have been occurring for some time now. However, he doesn't say whether we are here to stop it, or that we are causing it, leaving a massive grey area. But of course, look who's in the background being all ghosty and stuff. It's Gengar, who obviously wants to twist the tail to his liking. The next day, we head into town and see everyone huddled around Gengar, who is clearly trying to wind everybody up. But because we don't know whether it is our fault or not, we simply have no answer when he asks us whether we are the trainer who is from the Ninetales curse that is causing this. And clearly everyone in the town has the resolve of a wet cabbage, as they instantly turn on us, even though we've saved multiple of them before. So Lombre attacks me, and we have to run off towards our base, as Alakazam's team meets up with us. However, rather than take us out now and kill us, He wants us to run and find the truth, showing that even he still has some belief that we are not truly malicious. However, he also does tell us that anyone who goes with us is considered no better and will also be eliminated alongside us. Caterpie then comes through like the goat he is and says that we're not the bad guys, and that we'll find the truth. Man, this guy is peak! He's the peak character! In the morning we get a nice send-off from all the people we've rescued and that they know we're not the bad guys. But we have to run, and run quickly as we go to the Lapis Cave, which is arguably the simplest dungeon in the series. Like, come on. Ooh, that was kind of close. When we make it out of there, we have to go have a short break, only to hear the hordes of people already behind us. How do they know exactly what way we went out of town at like 4 AM? That doesn't make sense, but either way, we run off towards Mount Blaze. And if you can't already tell, this is where Moltres resides, along with another boss fight. This is such a dangerous place that some of the chasing pack here have no choice but to turn back, as Pokemon like Bellsprout and Shiftry would probably burn up if they even went in. It's also at this point where enemy Pokemon slowly start to get stronger with more HP and decent moves, but luckily on the way through I pick up a special band for Pikachu and a power band for myself to give us a power boost as we scale Mount Blaze. And I also only just realised while recording this that this is a platform atop a volcano. I don't know how I never realised it in the nearly 20 years that this game has been out, but hey. Thanks to me finding an Attract TM, Pikachu now has 2 moves to incapacitate Moltres alongside us to give us a super easy win as I can do even more damage than before. If you didn't know why I'm having such an easy time with this, the speedrunning Pokemon for this game is Skitty. That's the main reason I wanted it. On our way down though, we have a little heart-to-heart with Pikachu about everything and that we are not the only ones that could make it through there. We remind him that ACT exists and that there's others that are probably still powerful enough like Team Hydro and Team Rumble Rock. But we keep pushing along toward the tundra in the northeast, and we pick our way through the frosty forest, beating up ferrets and slapping rocks. At the end of the frosty grotto though, we are met with another legendary. Yep, you guessed it, it's Articuno. This is absolutely hands down the single most dangerous fight of the run, as Articuno can hit us from anywhere on the field with Powder Snow doing huge damage, as well as being able to freeze us at the same time. So let's try and break the ice and beat up Articuno. We hit a big Sing and Attract, slowing it down, and then the next turn we hit a good Thunder Wave, followed by Thunder Shock and Double Slap. We have to repeat the process as it recovers its status on the next turn, but we get the job done without a huge amount of issue. Articuno then tries to blame the disasters taking place on us, similar to everyone else, but we swear to him that he's just wrong and that it's not the case. Articuno, unlike most people, has a little bit of resolve and doesn't believe us until Absol, following us, saves the day by jumping into the fray. Absol then explains that they can feel natural disasters occurring and that these ones are not natural and cannot be caused by normal things like us. Articuno then promised to let us through so long as we strive to stop said disasters, and Absol decides that it would be best to join forces along with us for safety's sake, so we let him come along. On our way further north, it gets even colder and colder, and we have a dizzy spell and get a vision of Gardevoir, who has basically been our guardian angel throughout the game. Gardevoir was a Pokemon previously owned by a trainer whose trainer grabbed a Ninetales tail and got cursed to be causing said current disasters. However, we don't know whether that is us or someone else. They then let us know that we will get an answer in Mount Freeze and that Ninetales from the curse resides at the peak. On Mount Freeze, incredibly, are ice types and fluffy Pokemon like Zangoose, Swablu and Sleeking. On our way through though, tragedy strikes as Absol misses 3 dash attacks in a row instead of using a normal attacking move because I forgot to turn on exclusive move user. Honestly, deserved. Otherwise though, nothing too much happens as we climb through the 20 floors on the way to the peak. At the peak, ACT finally catches up to us and they maintain their promise to fight at us with all their power. However, we hold out through just enough strikes before we can get too crazy with it. Ninetales jumps down from the peak, and it turns out that they know who the human is that caused all of these catastrophes to occur. They then reassure us and confirm that we are not the human from the legend, but that it is someone else. If you know who it is, let me know in the comments without spoiling it for people who don't know. ACT then apologized sympathetically and that they were wound up by Gengar. Before we can leave though, a massive earthquake strikes, and Ninetales tells us that these quakes have been occurring because Groudon is awakening. Alakazam then tells us to head off for a well-earned rest, that we've cleared our name and should be proud, while they go off to quell Groudon's rage. And when we get back to the Pokemon Square, we see that Gengar is still trying to wind people up while sitting there while waiting on the others. When we get back though, there is jubilation from some, but terror from Gengar as we reveal the truth and that we aren't the human from the legend as they chase Gengar out of town. A few days later, we get a literal filler episode dungeon as there is a request from a little guy called Wynot saying that there are Mankeys raging in the Uproar Forest and that they need someone to calm them down. Uproar Forest is full of weak old bug Pokemon, Apoms and Seedots, but after quelling the Mankeys, we get a Chestnut. Wow, incredible. The Mankeys come back for round 2, however, and they come at us, but our base, and realize that we have a peeled chestnut. They love peeled chestnuts and want to get it off of us, so we offer them that they can have it, so long as they help us refurbish our team's base. They quickly bore though and want more food from us, so after a couple more runs through the forest, we can fulfill their request and give them a couple more, so we get an awesome upgrade to our house. Now, this is awesome as the base actually changes to whatever your starter Pokemon is. The monkeys then ask us whether we are still going to get them chestnuts or not, and when we tell them we won't be because there is no reason to anymore, they then go berserk and try to destroy the base, so we probably killed them like the good Samaritans we are. A couple of days later, Shiftry calls a huge meeting in the town square with teams from all over the land. He lets us know that there's problems. Team ACT have still not come back from Magma Cavern and that they need to be rescued. The people try to get into a bit of a commotion, but we try to say that we'll go and help them. But Lombre decides to be a Debbie Downer and stops us from going as 3 Pokemon all put their hats into the ring, with Blastoise, Octillery and Golem all rescuing them underground. Unfortunately though, the next day they come back after eating some hella bad dirt, and that they couldn't even get anywhere near Groudon because the dungeon is that tough. Everyone becomes terrified at the thought of how powerful everything is in there, but we decide to stand up and be brave and show that as a rescue team, we should show pride to rescue Pokemon. So now we can go to the Magma Cavern where he resides. This place is teeming with fire, rock and poison types. So after one more grind, realizing I was a little bit underleveled for this point in the game, we went in. I managed both mine and Pikachu's power points just enough to make sure that our link moves wouldn't break, and had this close call from an Onix. 1 health was all that separated us from what is essentially the end of the main story and tiny woods. Anyway, enough shouting. We can go into the cabin pit where on the 2nd floor Tyranitar and Charizard are wiped out. It turns out that Alakazam is still battling Groudon in the deepest part, and it's almost like he expected us to show up to save him at some point. Before Alakazam can really explain anything though, he gets wiped out as Groudon rises through the lava to fight us now. We hit him with some Ice Beams as I got the TM from the purple Kecleon before coming here, doing some decent damage to start it off. Unfortunately for Groudon though, we only needed 3 double slaps and a Sing to destroy it though. ACT gets teleported in, allowing us to complete the rescue before another earthquake strikes, forcing us to skedaddle out of here. We now go back to the Pokemon Square once more, and ACT tells us they are forever in our debt, and that we are finally a first-rate exploration team, which brings Pikachu to tears, forcing a bit of fun to be poked his way. We then get a telepathic message from Xatu, stating that there is a disaster on its way, a shooting star that is on a crash course with the Earth. He tells us that we are to meet with Rayquaza in the domain of the sky atop the Sky Tower, where Alakazam, himself, and another Pokemon will make something we call a teleport gem to teleport us high enough that we can get into the stratosphere. We then get slung up to the Sky Tower and head in with our triad from the very beginning. Now, because this is the final dungeon of the main story, it is the longest and toughest of them all, with monsters like Salamence, Aerodactyl, and Metagross. But after flying through the 33 floors of terror, we make it to the pinnacle and meet with Rayquaza. For a Pokemon that is so angry we are in his domain, he's awfully weak as he gets absolutely smacked up, getting frozen, attracted, and paralyzed whilst also taking 250 damage in a single hit from Pikachu. Oof. After beating him though, he realizes that we're here for good reason and tell him to look up to the sky as some shockwaves start hitting us. He realizes that the meteor is falling into our atmosphere and that he has to destroy it, and asks for our resolve, and we said that we knew what we signed up for when we came here no matter the outcome. With a bit of pride, he then lets off his Hyper Beam at full power, destroying the meteor in the process. We then fall into a deep coma and look who it is. Gengar. Of course it is. He claims he wants to drag us to the Dark World, try looking all hard and tough, but he actually drags us back to the Great Canyon where all the other Pokemon were, and it turns out he saved Pikachu as well. It turns out that everyone was waiting here to congratulate us on our success, as Xatu tells us that the meteor is no more. And it turns out that thanks to us fulfilling our role as a Pokemon, and while the attention is off us, that this is our time to depart. We go into one of the saddest cutscenes in Pokemon. I'm literally tearing up when I was writing this, where we tell everyone that we have to go back to being a human now that everything is safe and happy again. Pikachu is heartbroken knowing this, as we never told him that we would have to return home. But those are obviously words that cannot be spoken to another person. On our way through worlds though, we get told that we will go back to wherever we were happiest. And we want to go back to the Pokemon world and stay as a Pokemon, as our bond with Pikachu is truly inseparable. So we do return, and make our partner as happy as anything. And that is the end of Poop's adventures for now. However, if you want to see a part 2 where I go through the post game, which is where the mystery dungeon really shines, let me know by liking the video. I'm going to set the goal high here. If we can hit 100 likes on this video, I will release a part 2 doing the entire post game with Nuzlocke rules. But until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.